Welcome back. Welcome to Marriage Culture TV, where marriage and culture intersect. We are your hosts, Queen Kathleen, and
Nikhil, welcome everyone.
welcome. Hi, Nikki.
Hey, Athleen, how are you?
I'm good. So today we have a very good topic lined up, and that is the
Yes,
topic of what everybody loves. Everybody loves to eat, right?
cuisine.
Cuisine. We're going to talk about cuisine today, and
Yes,
cuisine in an intercultural home lifestyle, right? So one of the things we wanted to touch base on is tolerance in food. And, Nikki and I were talking, and basically it boils down to this. When you're married to someone from a different culture, one of the things that you get to know them better is by learning their cuisine, like what is staple to them, what did they eat growing up, and what are their favorite foods. I think that's always a good thing to ask someone, whether or not they're from a different culture, but we're talking about interculturally here.
right.
What are their favorite foods? So Nikki, we were talking about some ways in like merging that and making that work, and you had some really good tips that you were talking about, and I'd love for you to
Right.
share it with our viewers.
Definitely. And I'll incorporate mine also with Athleen's. Hand it back to her in a few seconds. But one of the things that I think food does for any person, it doesn't matter the culture you're from, whether you're married or in a relationship, is that food is bonding for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when you're in a relationship, I think one of the way you got to know the person that you were in that relationship with, that you spend some time, sitting down and dining and having certain foods. And while it was cool, while you were out, dating or getting to know each other and we're eating different meals, when you start having your home and you're from two different cultures, food is a staple part of that relationship. And you get to learn a lot about that person in regards to a relationship. So I think one of the things that we have to remember when we are married to someone from a different culture is that we have to understand, we have to respect, and we have to compromise when it comes to food, as with everything else, because they're coming from a different culture.
Yeah.
So certain foods you might not like, or you would never in your wildest dreams ever think of having that. But you have to respect it because it's also what that person maybe like. Maybe it's their favorite food.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Athleen and I were talking about was, we had the perfect example of, say, for instance, you're sitting at the dinner table and your spouse's delicacy is, Athleen, what was that? Snails. And you're sitting there, and that's what the person wants to eat. I mean, every culture has something that will be different from your culture. It doesn't matter if you're from Asia or Europe or Africa. There are some delicacies that you might not think of eating, especially, and from the Caribbean, certain things that we eat. Like, for instance, goat meat. Some people are like, what?
Yeah.
Oxtail. People are like, how can you eat that?
Yeah.
And that's the same way with any relationship. You just have to understand that, there's going to come a time when there's going to be a certain meat product or dish that you might never try. Still doesn't mean that it's not going to be prepared in your home. So at that point, that's where the respect comes in, and that's where the compromise comes in. Another thing is that, the way you might season your food is totally different from how somebody may season their food. You might like a lot of salt, a lot of pepper. The other person might like a lot of spices and might like it more peppery.
And you have to balance.
Definitely. Sometimes it might mean that you have to cook 2 or 3 different dishes for that day, so everyone is satisfied when they sit at the dinner table to have a meal, and keep that harmony flowing. One of the things, when I was dating, I was always saying, to my then dating partner.
Fiance. He was your fiance.
We weren't engaged yet. We weren't engaged yet. This was dating. And we used to talk about food. And I was always saying, I like a lot of spices in my food. I said I like a lot of spices, and when he was thinking of spices, he was always thinking of let me change that. So I was always saying I don't like my food spicy.
Yes.
And when I said spicy, he was thinking of the spices in my food. It was like, why? You like your food bland? I said, no, it's too hot with all that spice. And he was like, no, you mean peppery. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, you know, so there goes that language barrier again,
Yes,
not
yes,
understanding what that person means. I mean, coming from the Caribbean, we love spice.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
also like our food pretty hot in some homes.
And
And
very well seasoned.
yes, you know, but I don't like my food peppery. He loves his food extremely peppery and hot, you know. So I can't say because I don't like, you know, really hot or peppery food, I'm not gonna make sure that my husband has the meal how he
Right,
wants it. I
right.
have to make it his way, and then, you know, make sure that I have mine where I'm able to tolerate it also. So that's where it comes in. So Kathleen, your take on that part?
My take on, and that's very important, Nikki. One of the things I remember saying was that, you know, my dad is Jamaican and is married to an American. And I remember one of the very first times, like, you know, shortly after they got married and I went to their house, and it was Sunday dinner. And, you know, normally Sunday dinner in Jamaica, it's like a very um, formal kind of a dinner. This is when
Yes,
you
it
put
is.
more, yeah, you put more work into it, right? We
Definitely.
have our
Yeah.
rice and peas, you have your fish, you have your oxtail, sometimes curry goat, and then your nice juices like your
Right.
mango
Carrot
juices,
juice,
yeah, like
soursop juice.
and soursop juice,
Yeah.
carrot juice, you know. And I remember I went to my dad's and my stepmom's house, and there was this Jamaican spread of meals. I mean, of menu, and I was like, oh wow, this is nice. And trust me, oh, the food was so good. And I was so
Really?
impressed. She's American and she took it upon herself to go and learn her husband's cuisine, learn how to cook it, and cooked it like she grew up in Jamaica. That's how good it
Wow.
was.
Kudos to
Yeah.
her.
Kudos
Kudos.
to her. And then at Thanksgiving time, and she's Southern American, you know, Thanksgiving time, of course she has like the native or cultural Southern Thanksgiving food, you know, the candied
Right.
yams, the mac and cheese, the turkey. But guess what? She also incorporated jerk chicken, rice and peas, and other Jamaican delicacies. And I'm like, this is wisdom. I
Yeah.
think it's wisdom and
Yeah.
it's respect for her husband. And it
Right.
just
And for
shows
his
how much she
culture.
loves him to go out of her way to learn his food, his culture, learn his cuisine, make it good. And she enjoys eating it.
Definitely.
Personally, I have a kind of a taste bud that I guess you can say is a little bit adventurous, but not too adventurous when it comes to meat. Like we were watching. Somebody sent me a video yesterday, and it was talking about exotic foods. And one of the first things that they were showing that the person was eating was it maggots?
Yeah. It
Maggot
was
kebab.
fried maggots.
Yes, maggot kebab. So they kind of cut it from the palm tree and they, you know, kebabbed it and roasted it. They also eat it
Right.
in
Had it
Asia.
well seasoned. It was looking really, really good, but
Is
these were
it?
maggots. And
But I know I know
I would like to
myself.
throw the question out to Athleen. So if this was one of your husband's delicacy, how would you go about it? He says, okay, you know what, I don't usually ask for it and I don't usually want you to prepare it. But say for instance, he said, okay, Athleen, my delicacy is maggots and snails. Will you make that for me this week? What would happen?
To be honest, I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it. I would buy it. And I'm being very honest because I couldn't kebab a maggot and snails were you're talking about different cultures now. Something that I grew up with, we would pour salt in a snail and
Yes.
watch it like melt away. So for me
Yeah.
now to have that mind shift where okay, this is something that was to me really gross, etc. Growing up, now
Right.
I'm gonna cook it. I don't think I could cook it. I know I couldn't because I know my gag reflex and it just wouldn't be a good sight. However,
Yeah.
I would buy it or I would not turn my nose up too much if he were to eat it at a table. I wouldn't try it, to be honest. And but there are other things that you know I have tried that I didn't think that I would try, and it's okay. I remember one time I had a roommate and she was from Russia, and so you have this Russian and Jamaican roommate, and we went out and that day I cooked. I cooked curried goat and some white rice and some plantains, and you know she would cook her stuffed peppers and borscht, which is normal Russian culture and her cuisine.
Right.
And so we learned from each other, but she's never, I would tell her, oh yeah, I eat curry goat. She's like, ew, like what in the world? Goat? No way. That is something you don't eat. I mean, she was so grossed out by it. Anyway, so I cooked, we went out and I came back to the house with a Jamaican friend of mine. And so she was, we were roommates. And so she was eating the food that I cooked. And my Jamaican friend said to me, in patois, she said, she know what she eats, meaning does she know what she's eating? And I said, oh, I don't think so. And I said to her, do you know what you're eating? And she goes, beef. And my friend, who's such a comedian, she went, meh. She's like, what? Sheep? I said, no, it's goat. And she was eating, and when I say goat, she kind of paused in midair. And she goes, well, it's good. And she kept on eating. And she finished. She was just like, that was really good. That was good goat.
Right.
So it's just about, like Nikki said, accepting.
Right. Very adventurous of your roommate.
Being
Very
respectful. Yeah, being respectful. You can be adventurous to the level to your comfort level. Yeah. But I think being respectful, learning what that person likes, and at least trying to make it or allowing them to enjoy it without you being disruptive.
Right.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, and because meals are such a
big part of who you are.
Right, a big part of your family time. Sitting down at a dinner table or at the table just to have breakfast or lunch or dinner. You want to make it as harmonious as possible. So, you're not expecting your other half to settle into how you do things or your way of eating, but at the same time, we have to also respect each other and try to just make compromises as with everything else, so that person is as comfortable as possible when they're having their meals. Same thing, you're sitting down at the table. Some people might eat a certain food with utensils or not with utensils, just because a person from a different culture might want to eat and not use a fork, maybe use some chopsticks or use their hands. It doesn't mean that the way they're eating it is wrong. It's just their way of doing it, and you just have to respect that, and there are many things that can come about with differences like that, simple fight over things like that. Your other half might want to eat in the morning. You might want to eat in the afternoon. Have to come to a balance, come to an agreement, try not to compromise. I think one of the questions we had last week from one of our subscribers, she said they're both from a different background. Meals was something that was different for both. Yeah. And she was trying to lose weight, if I remember correctly. And how would you incorporate that into your lifestyle with both cultures? And I know Kathleen had a feedback on ways she thought that could work. Because we all want to make sure that we're healthy, regardless of what we're eating. Yes. So what was your take on that, Kathleen?
On that was, and I could identify with her, because for me, once I got married, I started cooking foods that were high in starch content. Okay. And so the weight came on more. So, and then my work around that was to cook 2 meals. However, that got tired real quickly, because cooking, I'm learning this different cuisine, so it was taking me much longer to cook it, and then having to turn around and cook my own food. It worked somewhat. However, it helps if your husband or your spouse will compromise and eat some of your healthy food. So maybe one day you can just have your healthy food. Right. Another thing that helps is go for walks together. Right. Work out together. And if your spouse is not one that won't work out with you, at least, like if you have children, hopefully he or she would agree to babysit while you have your quality time, while you have your time to work out. Yeah. So at least that dedicated time to work out, or it could be a source of a cheerleader.
piggyback of what you said, you know, with doing it together. I think support is one of the biggest
Yes.
things ever, you know, whether it's you trying to lose the weight or it's your partner trying to lose the weight, just being supportive. So whatever it's going to take for you to be healthy and
Yeah.
happy together, then, you know, you just have to try and work at it. But like Kathleen said, if he or she maybe doesn't have the time or is not supportive in that area because it's not a problem area for that person,
Mhm.
you know, it's just finding ways to make that time for yourself where you're able to do it.
Yeah.
And like Kathleen said, if you can cook 1 or 2 meals a week, that's totally different. So your
Mhm.
carb content is not too
Mhm.
much, or, you know, just watching what you
Yeah.
eat, or just trying to make those meals and just trying to get as much support as you can from the home. Anything else that you wanted to add for us this
I
week?
think we reached the end. However, I had this quote. I saw this quote earlier this week, and I wanted to share it because I think it's so
Okay.
paramount in any intercultural marriage or marriage, even if you're married to somebody from the same culture. It says, "It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences."
You
So,
said that so fast though. So could you just say it again?
I'm sure I know it's like I tend to talk fast, but I'll slow down. It is not our differences that divide us. It is our
Okay.
inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. And that is
Absolutely.
key in making any marriage work, but it's
Yes,
definitely key when you're in an intercultural marriage. And with that,
absolutely.
we have reached the end of our broadcast. Over to you, Nikki.
Yes. Thank you again for joining us. Please subscribe, share, invite friends, family, join our tribe. And until next time, have an awesome week.
Bye.
Bye.